Good Friday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Well, we made it to the end of another week. Of course, you have news headlines coming up on this Friday. We have a message from my book, Word That Choose to Live By. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, we provide my conversation with Patryce Sheppard. She's the author of the book, Doing It Differently, an Empowering Approach to Thriving Through Breast Cancer. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with their Friday headlines and international news. Netanyahu set to return to power in Israel after Prime Minister concedes. Former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday appeared set to return to power as head of Israel's most right-wing government ever after winning this week's national election, with the current caretaker Prime Minister conceding defeat. Final results show Netanyahu's party and its ultra-nationalist and religious parties capturing a solid majority in Israel's parliament. The strong showing promised to end the political gridlock that has paralyzed Israel for the past 3.5 years. But the planned agenda of the new government expected to take office, including an overhaul of the country's legal system and a tough line against the Palestinians, promises to further polarize a deeply divided nation and risk antagonizing Israel's closest allies abroad. Israel on Tuesday held its fifth election since 2019 in a race, like the previous four, that was widely seen as a referendum on Netanyahu's fitness to rule as he faces corruption charges. While the previous races ended in deadlock, Netanyahu managed a disciplined campaign that gave him the edge over a divided and disorganized opposition. The acting prime minister conceded defeat and called Netanyahu to congratulate him shortly before the final votes came in. In more international news, U.S. Embassy officials visit Brittany Griner in Russia prison. Officials at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow visited jailed WNBA star Brittany Griner on Thursday, more than a week after Russian court rejected her appeal of her 9-year sentence for drug possession. The State Department spokesperson said in a tweet that the American representative saw firsthand her tenacity and perseverance despite her present circumstances. The spokesperson said the Biden administration is continuing to press for the immediate release of Griner and Paul Whelan, who was sentenced in 2020 to 16 years in prison in Russia on espionage-related charges that he and his family say are bogus, and fair treatment for every detained American. The White House press secretary said Griner is doing as well as can be expected under the circumstances, and that the administration was working to resolve the current unacceptable and wrongful detentions of Griner and Whelan. In national news, Paul Pelosi released from hospital a week after attack. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said her husband, Paul Pelosi, was released from the hospital Thursday after his treatment for injuries from a violent assault last week in which he was attacked with a hammer. Pelosi said Paul remains under doctor's care as he continues to progress on a long recovery process. He is now home, she said. Law enforcement officials who responded to the break-in early last Friday witnessed Paul Pelosi being struck in the head with a hammer at least once, according to court documents. Officials said the assault was captured on the officer's body cameras. In business news, CNBC axes Shepard Smith's nightly newscast after 2 years. CNBC is canceling Shepard Smith's nightly newscast after 2 years, with its new president saying he wanted to focus on the network's core strength of business news. Smith, who is leaving the network, will have his last telecast sometime later this month. He did not have any immediate comment. Smith landed at CNBC after abruptly leaving Fox News Channel in 2019, establishing a general interest news show that aired at 7 p.m. Eastern on weeknights. CNBC said Smith's show attracted the richest audience of any evening program on cable news, usually a high selling point, but there clearly weren't enough viewers. His show averaged 222,000 viewers this year, down slightly from 2021, the Nielsen Company said. For the last 3 months of 2020, the news with Shepard Smith had 280,000 viewers. And finally, in more business news, stocks in lower as the Fed continues to fight inflation. Stocks racked up more losses on Wall Street, and Treasury yields again rose to multi-year highs on Thursday as investors looked ahead to a closely watched job market report from the government that could influence the Fed Reserve's next move in its fight to bring down inflation. Technology stocks led the market pullback, which came a day after the central bank raised its benchmark rate for the 6th time this year and signaled that it may need to keep hiking rates for some time before it can successfully squash the highest inflation in decades. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for a message from my book, Word That Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Friday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. When you truly appreciate the gift that you are and all the care that went into your becoming who you are today, then loving everything else will come naturally. Have an amazing Friday and enjoy your weekend. We are part of my conversation coming up with Patryce Sheppard in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with Entertainment Spotlight. Patryce Sheppard joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about her new book, Doing It Differently, an empowering approach to thriving through breast cancer. Here's a bit of our conversation.
I noticed even recently you posted on social media, literally people around the world are benefiting from your story, benefiting from your book. What has that experience been like for you to take something so personal and to see how other people are connecting through it?
It's actually been life-changing for me as well. You know, when I wrote the book initially, I wrote it, for breast cancer survivors or women who are going through breast cancer. But then, as you said, there is an underlining, message there about going through situations of adversity. And what I'm finding as I'm touring across the country is that, people are resonating with the story. People who don't have breast cancer, just everyday people who are going through everyday challenges. And it's really humbling for me. I'm very excited to be able to, put out something that to the world that can help the world.
Yeah, and it definitely can. And I think that the main thing is that it does is that it reminds people that they're not by themselves. And I think, Patryce, that's the big thing for a lot of people through any situation. We're talking about dealing with some form of cancer, dealing with abuse, dealing with, any type of situation where they feel less than. To know that someone else understands can be life-changing in itself. What has that been like for you to know that you're not alone in what you have dealt with and will continue to deal with when it comes to life lessons?
Well, what it does is it makes me feel, connected to a community. And so one of the biggest things, I talked about it a little bit in the book, where I talked about when I was going through, I was looking for someone who had been through what I've been through, who could understand the feelings that I was feeling in the moment.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back to you guys on Monday with more news, message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course, your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Now let's go make it a great one.